Aaron Smith.
A man who gave his life for the community, remembered as a pillar of his community.
You see, Aaron had a strong presence, a perpetual drive to succeed, and a way of communicating which distinguished him in a very unique way.
His name and memory alone will inspire new recruits to answer this noble calling.
Colleagues, friends, family, and strangers paying respects in the days following his death.
Today, we all remember his life and his service as Trooper Smith ends his watch.
And flags are flying at half-staff across Indiana today in honor of fallen Trooper Aaron Smith. Hoosiers honored and celebrated his life at a funeral service earlier today. And in just a moment, he'll be laid to rest alongside other heroes at Crown Hill Cemetery. Thank you for joining us. I'm Debbie Knox.
And I'm Nick McGill. The Graveside service will start shortly. We'll bring you those services live as soon as they start. We'll also bring you coverage of the life and service of Trooper Aaron Smith and what we've already seen today, from the funeral to the public paying respects to him. Right now, we're also joined here in the studio by Indiana State Police Master Trooper Phil Hensley. Thank you for joining us for this. We're going to be relying on him to help us explain what we're seeing as we're seeing it.
Thank you. That's right. We were watching you earlier today. You're going to be a very good guide in helping us understand what's going on. And it has been a very emotional day today.
It certainly has been. And by having this period of the transition from the church to the cemetery, it gives officers a little bit of time to process the emotions they had this morning before those emotions build right back up Graveside because of the ceremonial proceedings that we have out there.
And we know with that ceremony, it's steeped in a lot of traditions that we sadly have seen too many times before here. But it is throughout those traditions that each one has a meaning. Each one has a purpose, and each one is dedicated to the life and service of Trooper Aaron Smith. You're looking at images right now from the funeral there. A large crowd of law enforcement leaders, friends, family, and members of the community that Aaron Smith served gathered at Emmanuel Church in Greenwood this morning. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb reflected how Trooper Smith gave his life to help save others.
It's in the very DNA of our incredible Indiana State Police officers and all of their brethren in public safety and law enforcement to protect and to serve and to move forward into the fray where it is unraveling, where seconds save and take lives. That's why I plead that we never take for granted the kind of humble Hoosier heroism Aaron displayed, not just that day, time and time again.
I heard Governor speaking a little earlier today. I also heard you, Trooper Hensley, talking about your connection to Trooper Smith. You actually trained him, is that correct?
I was one of his instructors at the academy through emergency vehicle operations, our driving portion of the academy. So had him in the car, outside at the track, a little bit of one-on-one personal interaction, as we have with each recruit. Some time to kind of get them to open up a little bit. When we take them out of the building, we like to kind of be a little bit more loose with them and talk and interact. And he was a little bit of a tough character to crack initially. He was very locked in and focused on what his mission was at the academy, and that was to become a very good state trooper.
And from all accounts, that's exactly what he
certainly
did.
Succeeded in that, yes.
Very serious.
We were just looking at some images there of some of the cars from the procession pulling into Crown Hill Cemetery. We heard the words from the governor there. Here's another live look there at the cemetery. We heard the words from the governor. I mentioned before, again, it's something we have heard too many times before here in recent years. But it goes without saying, each time we hear people describe the service that these fallen officers commit to their community, you can feel just how much they meant to their community with that.
It's very amazing, and it's almost unfortunate that it takes circumstances such as this to be able to see that. But the love that these communities have for those that protect them is somewhat amazing, and it's very deeply rooted, as shown by the support over the last several days leading up to the funeral, as well as the procession, the turnout of the individuals who have been along the procession route to support us and other officers and the family. The most important part of all of this that we're doing today is to support Megan Smith and her family for the loss that she's experienced.
Yeah, 2,000 people, I think, were at the church this morning, I believe, and we're still getting numbers on who all lined the procession. It was quite a route. It started in Greenwood, and obviously it's taken some time to get to Crown Hill.
Amazingly, that's one of our most difficult things when we plan a funeral at the church site, is to make sure the venue is either large enough or has an overflow area, because we have so many people that want to attend. They have it in their heart to be part of this in support.
And a lot of what we see is a reflection then of what Aaron Smith put into his community. What we're seeing coming out today is a reflection of what he put in. You mentioned, how he became such a great trooper. And in fact, just last year, he was honored with 2 life-saving awards, and showing his dedication and the action that he takes. And we also know he was helping with victims of severe storms, that he was a member of the church. He put into his community, not just when he was wearing his uniform, but outside of uniform as well. And then today, under the saddest of circumstances, we get to see a mirror being held up of that service reflected back to his family and to state police and really to all of Indiana.
It's interesting to see how his service has come full circle. In less than a year, the man saved 2 individuals' lives, was very humble about it, did not want to be necessarily recognized, didn't even want to tell his family, as we found out through the ceremony and what was talked about him today, leading to, he saves individuals' lives, then he puts his own life in risk and in danger in order to stop a criminal element and succumbs to injuries. The full circle for the family to be able to see that and see the dedication that he had to the service of his citizens in the state of Indiana is amazing.
We should mention that he was a football player in high school and wrestled, so just all around.
Also
great
the National
guy.
Guard.
National Guard, that's right.
Guard.
He served in the National Guard.
And that goes back to the word that Debbie, you just used, that Phil, you were just using, service. And we've heard that word used multiple times when describing Aaron Smith, that he was a servant. In fact, we know that a cousin and people who have described him said, hey, he's humble, he's a servant, he's a hero. We hear those things repeated over and over again about who he was. And then we look at stuff like saving people last year, the work he does with his church, the helping out with people with severe storms, and truly, and even, risking his life and ultimately losing his life while serving the community. That word, it just kind of is the common thread that rolls through not only his life, but his time as a state police trooper.
And I think a word you can add in there is leadership. Debbie, you mentioned the things he was involved with in high school, leading forward, as Nick, you said, the National Guard, now with us. Leadership. He wanted to put himself forward in different venues, different traits, that he would be able to step up when necessary to the lead and say, hey, I'm going to do this in service of my state.
Take a look at the picture that we have live right now, if you would, Trooper. This is the hearse. It is now entering the gates here at Crown Hill Cemetery. This is the near east side of Indianapolis. Most people in this area know where Crown Hill is, right off 38th Street. It's a very old cemetery. And it's going to take some time. They're stopping there. Can you tell us what you think might be going on at this point?
At this point, they're preparing the various elements that will lead the hearse to the gravesite, and that's going to include, as you see, officer mounted there on a horse. It will have the riderless horse, the colors that will be presented as well, the flags with our honor guard marching in with the hearse. So they're setting those up and making sure all of those elements are in place before they begin making the final destination to his gravesite.
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that these ceremonies are so steeped in tradition that you will see some of the things that we have seen here before. We mentioned the riderless horse. and the boots are turned backwards
Yes.
as you know, to symbolize looking back. We know there's the white carnations with the red spot in the middle, the white symbolizing the purity of the service, the red symbolizing the blood that was spilled. You today are wearing the red ropes there, you know, on your uniform. That has the symbolism as well of the blood that has been spilled. There's so many things and elements of this that are steeped in tradition that goes back very, very far to the very beginning of policing in this country, and not even just in this country. And we know a lot of them are steeped in Irish traditions as well.
Military traditions.
Military
as well.
traditions
Right.
as well. We're
Right.
going to be seeing a lot of that here today as they prepare for this voyage here to the Heroes of Public Safety area of Crown Hill.
Trooper, you mentioned that the family will, you know, this is really centered around his wife and family and that sort of thing. What will happen in the coming days and months? Any ideas of how the support will reach her? This is a big day, but it will eventually, you know, go away, and now there will be her and her family. So what will the state police and other police agencies do to support the family?
She's become a member of a very unfortunate yet elite group, in that she's the widow of a police officer that was killed in the line of duty. And those select few individuals truly only understand what each other goes through. So likely in the next few days, she'll have a little bit of time to decompress on her own, which she certainly needs, but she will be, you know, having the outreach of other wives who have lost their husbands, specifically with the Indiana State Police. They will reach out to her and relay their stories, their feelings, their emotions, what they went through post-funeral and going forward, and try to help her transition through this stage of her life.
So she'll have the support.
She will have, and I know a lot of those ladies. They are tremendous people, and they have spent a lot of time in helping others. As we've progressed and we have lost other officers, they spend a lot of time dedicated to helping those widows advance with their lives.
Yeah, and we've heard that before as well. The wife of Deputy Jacob Pickett from Boone County, the wife of Lieutenant Aaron Allen from Southport, they have mentioned that in, you know, those moments following the funeral, that elite club you mentioned of people who have been there before, of the family that is there, really holding them up and supporting them in time, and how much it meant to them to have that as they're still processing this very raw, very new, difficult time as well. I also want to take the time to mention that when we're talking about support as well, you can visit an Indiana Members Credit Union, and there is the Aaron Smith Fund there that you can help and donate to help the family with expenses. As we know, that is, you know, another difficult part about this moving forward. And we also want to be clear here, because we've heard some stories. That is the only fund.
That's right.
We
want to be very careful about that.
We want to be very careful about that. If you want to help the family of Aaron Smith, you can visit an Indiana Members Credit Union and donate to his fund there.
That's the appropriate way, and it's the way that has been laid out. So you're safe there giving money in that particular
Right.
fund.
Unfortunately, there are still, as the world continues, there are folks that want to take advantage, and that's why we kind of want to isolate that down.
Yeah. Well, after the funeral service, Trooper Smith was transported, as we mentioned a little earlier, from Greenwood to the Crown Hill Cemetery, which he is right now. And the procession passed by Whiteland Community High School, where Trooper Smith went to school, and it was there that they called his end of watch.
The vehicle pursuit, Trooper Aaron Smith attempted to de-escalate the situation by placing stop six, then was struck outside of his commission by the target vehicle. Aaron Smith honorably served citizens of Indiana with Indiana State Police for 5 years and with Indiana Army National Guard for 12 years, careers he took to heart. Aaron was always willing to help those in need with a smile on his face. It has been an honor to have dispatched and to have known Trooper Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith was a loving husband, son, grandson, brother, and friend. Trooper Aaron Smith will be missed and forever remembered. 52-361 is 10:42 for the final time.
That's a very somber moment. That's just, it just gets to me every time. I've never heard that before with any other terrible tragedy. It just gets to me.
It does, and I think too. I was just thinking about this because we've heard several of these before, and I think it's those moments of silence, in between and after the weight of what was just said and of what is going on really starts to hit you. With funerals like these, there's so much going on. There's a lot of moving parts. It can get a little hectic sometimes, but there are always these moments where it's almost silent, and that is those moments where you feel the weight and the gravity of the situation kind of rush upon you of what is going on, as you're maybe transitioning to what's then happening again in front of you, but it comes like a wave almost with some of that.
The final 1042 call, and that 1042 is our code for signing off duty.
Yeah.
Every time I hear this, and it's not just within Indiana, for out-of-state, other state funerals I've attended, when they do those radio calls, it sends chills up my back. It's very much of sort of a finite moment that he's not going to answer that radio again. That in this case, 52361 is not picking up the mic in his car and responding ever again. And that weight really kind of sets in just before. So it's at an added emotional state right before we go out to the funeral site or the graveside.
Another emotional time is the garrison flag. I believe we have some video of that. I think we can show it, but I want you to tell me, if you can, describe the meaning of all that. I know it's a very large flag, but it's very important, and it's taken down fairly quickly after this procession's over.
Right. When it's placed over the procession route, the procession route has to be clear because only the procession and Trooper Smith are allowed to pass underneath it. So only people specifically involved with the funeral are allowed to go under. It's a very large flag. Garrison is an old military term and actually refers to a large flag, and it is very large, and that's why using the fire trucks to suspend it up in the air. After Trooper Smith passed underneath that, the fire departments began to immediately take that down because we need to get that out. So. Opening up the roadway, we don't want others to pass under that because it has that significance. And
when we talk about the number of people that come out and show their support and grieve with the family and with the police, we talk about the number of people who do that. That's usually one of the sites where we see some of the most people congregated at, is that site where the garrison flag is. And they want to take in that image of that procession and of Trooper Smith coming underneath it. Is one of the more powerful moments that you'll have in the course of a police funeral.
And with the flag itself, we consider that a very reverent symbol and thing we use within these funeral details, and that's why we focus a lot with the flag fold, which we'll see later on. That is a very instrumental ceremonial aspect of a funeral and has a very deep meaning, as does the flag in general. So we consider that as a very shining part of a funeral.
And that's also something that you notice during these ceremonies, is the amount of care that is taken with every single movement, whether it be the folding of the flag, the escorts of Trooper Smith, whether it be the pipes and drums as they're playing, whether it be anything that happens there is always done with such reverence and such care to illuminate just the importance of the moment.
Right, and the tradition of each individual element, and Nick, you mentioned the riderless horse, just to use that as an example. Within the United States history, that goes all the way back. The first riderless horse was Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury. He did not have his boots backwards in the stirrups. George Washington was the first president. He did not have his boots. It was Abraham Lincoln, whose riderless horse actually had his boots facing to the rear. And what that symbolized was, first off, he was never going to ride his horse again. Second, he's looking back, and it's his last opportunity to look back over either military, the troops that he led, or in the case with a police funeral, the people that he served with and the people he served for. So it's very deep traditions, and we want to continue those, and we make them very meticulous, very important continuing with all aspects of the funeral.
I remember that from the John F. Kennedy funeral, and I'm much older than you guys, but I remember that and wondering what that was as a child, and now you've explained it. It was a good explanation for me. So,
we also want to take a moment here to bring in our reporter who is at Crown Hill Cemetery right now, Fox 59's Michael Van Scoyka. Michael, we know you've been sadly covering this story since Trooper Smith died last week. You're now at Crown Hill. What are you seeing out there now?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Right now, hundreds of people are making their way into Crown Hill Cemetery, men and women both in uniform and those who knew Trooper Smith. Right now, there was just a long line, hundreds of police cars making their way into the cemetery. And of course, now many of them are gathering out here this afternoon as we wait for this service to begin. It's a very somber moment, of course, but something that I think is special to note is just how many uniforms we're seeing right now out here of all different colors, from all different states, all across the country, different communities. Yesterday we had the chance to speak to a few as far as Utah and New Mexico, just talking about that brotherhood, why it's important to be here, because that thin blue line, there really is no boundary that many of them told us. And now right now people are gathering out here. Of course, the family will eventually make their way out here. During that time, I had the chance to speak with a military service member who sort of told me how this ceremony will kind of go through. She was telling me that it'll begin with a prayer. The chaplain will give a prayer, and then at that point, we may hear a few other words and discussion, but shortly after there will be a 21 gun salute. Of course, this is some of the highest honors for someone who served. And then after that, we'll hear taps. Just right in front of us, we'll hear taps. And every time you hear that music, it almost sends chills down your spine. It's just one of those really touching and somber tributes to someone who committed their life to service, especially someone who had two uniforms. He was in the National Guard and he served as a state trooper. And then following that, they'll fold the American flag, which will be handed to Trooper Smith's wife. Again, right now we're still waiting on the ceremony and the prayer and all that to begin as the family makes their way out here, but it's just so special to see how many people are truly out here just watching the flow of cars make their way in here. So many people impacted by Aaron and others who didn't even know Aaron but still felt compelled to be out here sharing their support for his family, Aaron of course, and then the entire Indiana community. Guys, right now I'll send it back to you in the newsroom.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. We'll stay in touch as things progress there. I want to also mention that he's in the area of what they call the Heroes of Public Safety Memorial. Yeah. So this is an area that's been set aside by Crown Hill for public safety.
Right,
people.
It's about an 1.5 acre area, and it was actually opened September 14th, 2002. It was right after 9/11.
Right.
And the idea is it has enough acreage to actually have about 1,500 grave sites. Certainly, we don't want to put another single one beyond today in there, but it's a dedicated area that we've had for over 20 years. So it's very nice monuments in the area as well.
Older part of the cemetery as well.
It is, and I would invite anyone to take an afternoon, go out and see it, and visit some of the grave sites there.
And Michael there mentioned, when we're talking about the Heroes of Public Safety, Trooper Smith wore two uniforms. He not only was he with state police, but he was in the National Guard as well. So when you talk about a hero of public safety, that certainly fits the bill of who he is and who he was. And he also mentioned just the amount of uniforms that he's seeing, and there's 2 points here I want to make with that. One, of the members of law enforcement you see from across the country coming in and paying their respects, and then obviously members of our own law enforcement agencies being there and paying respects. But the one thing that you don't see, and I think is also equally as important, is as all those members are there at this cemetery, there are other members of law enforcement who are then filling in for any gaps that may have been created by the presence there at, so it's even what you don't see you see that bonding, that coming together, and people paying tribute in their own way to Aaron Smith.
Public safety goes on.
Yes, and with an event like this, certainly we're having a hard time staffing troopers. That's a nationwide issue. So for a department to dedicate people to come to this funeral specifically for us, that means other people have to step up and cover shifts to fill in for manpower issues. So it goes border to border. Yes, there are people troopers from California, Arizona, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Alaska, all over the nation here. But there's also people still back home in those home areas that are stepping in to help cover those voids.
This is obviously well planned out, we know, and you know especially what to expect. Who is the person who has to organize all this? Is this a national person, a local person? I'm just curious.
For us, it's within our department, and it's a group. Okay. We have our honor guard commander and assistant commander who basically know, okay, we need this many people to do this and this. Then we have our operations section who help coordinate manpower, travel routes, venues, different things like that. So this is a team effort, and it is extraordinarily taxing. I cannot begin to tell you or describe how taxing this truly is for everybody involved to get this planned out. But 24 hours a day, if that's what it takes, we will do it to make sure that it goes just as smooth as what it's gone today.
Because a lot of times these are just put together in a matter of days.
Yes,
that's right.
And instantly that team is activated and says, okay, now we have to start doing this. And you don't always have a lot of time. Especially something of this scale.
Right.
You don't have a lot of time to put it in, and you mentioned having to identify a venue that can hold all the people that we're going, locking down the route that we're going to take, and then making sure things are okay along that route, and then of course putting together the ceremonial and the traditions for the ceremony. There's a lot of moving parts here that have to come together very quickly. Yep. And that, as you mentioned, that is a daunting task.
For example, with our honor guard team, as soon as we knew of his passing, phone calls were made, text messages were going out. Hey, you're on standby, you're on alert. You need to make sure you block off pretty much the next week to week and a half.
Right.
Keep your schedule clear, because at any moment, for any reason, we may need you to come up and help out. And certainly there's so many moving parts to this. It's so fluid and dynamic. Yeah, we have it down to where we know what we're doing and what order and the procedure and the protocol, but no two funerals are the same.
Right.
There's so many different, elements to it that we have to go through and meet.
And it goes without saying, this would be something you just as easy rather not have down.
I'd rather be writing tickets.
Unfortunately, we know all too well how to do that. The teams know all too well how to do it, which is something you'd rather not know how to do and be so prepared for. But that is the life of law enforcement and public safety.
If there was any aspect of the job that I've had over the last 2 decades that I would not want to know anything about or not have to worry about, this is it. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
I was going to ask you too, there's been some video that I think we've shown earlier, but I think it's very interesting, and it shows Trooper Smith, I think, in training, running through Crown Hill. Is that correct? And I think that's what was happening at the time.
I believe that was in 2018 during his...
Tell us again what that was all about, because I find that very interesting.
I believe that was a memorial run.
Okay.
That was arranged through our training division, and basically sort of a team building camaraderie, but focusing on those who gave their lives in the service of the state. So acknowledging and memorializing fallen officers. And in that video clip that you saw, Debbie, he had stepped out, he was calling cadence. So he was keeping the formation in line, more or less ironically proving, as a recruit, that he had leadership abilities and capabilities to step out, lead his men through that run.
So. Yeah, I think we're going to show the video when we pull it up in just a second. But again, these are the gates at Crown Hill Cemetery. It's our live picture. This is the video again. Is that him right there?
That's him. That's him stepped out.
Yeah.
And
this is you said this is 2018.
Right.
When,
this is
when
2018.
he was still a cadet, which also goes to show you just how short his career was. With state police, how relatively still new. The beginnings of his career he was still in before his life was sadly cut short. Of course, he probably dreamed of a lifelong career, and certainly, the state police had those hopes for him. But that was just 2018.
Yeah.
And here we are in 2023.
Yeah, when you reflect back that it's just 5 years, that is a very short time.
period of time.
Yes.
We've heard people at the funeral today talk about a calling, that he had a calling to serve, both militarily and with the police. Is that, describe that if you would. What is that like? How do you suppose he felt in his heart about being called to be an Indiana State Trooper?
I can explain that because I can relate to it.
Okay.
My father was a police officer growing up, so as my role model and the one person I looked up to more than anyone, I felt like I had that in me. This is not a job. This is a calling. You have to have that fire within you to be able to do what we do, because it's not normal. What we do is not natural. Normal people don't run into violence, don't run into dangerous situations, they run away from it. You have to have that flame within you to want to take on this calling.
Yeah.
That's why we view it as such. And that was certainly the case with Aaron Smith. I had actually asked him during his training while we were in the car together, because he has an aviation background. I have an engineering background.
Pilot. Yeah,
I have a degree in engineering.
Well, you're also a meteorologist.
I'm also a meteorologist. So
We're hearing that.
I had asked him, because people had asked me, what are you doing? Why law enforcement? You could do so many other things, make so much money. He said, I have this need. I feel I need to serve. That hit home. It was like, well,
Yeah.
I don't have a response, buddy, because I'm in the same boat, you know.
You just feel
so
it.
there's this calling. It has to be this flame inside you.
Almost like called to a ministry. I mean,
Very
pastors
similar.
have that
That's
sort of thing. It's
exactly
a little
right.
different, but you feel in your heart, this is where you need to go.
That's
and
exactly
for
right.
someone like Aaron Smith, as you mentioned, there were so many examples in his short career of that. It was his calling, the life-saving measures that he takes for people, the community, the way he served his community. It very clearly was something within him. And is the reason that we are here honoring him today. If you are just now joining us here at 401, we are now honoring the life of Indiana State Trooper Aaron Smith. We are getting ready to bring you the services. Trooper Smith has now arrived at Crown Hill Cemetery. You can see hundreds of members of law enforcement and family, friends, loved ones all gathering now at the cemetery. In just a few moments here, we know the ceremony will start. We'll bring you that coverage here live. We are sitting here talking right now with Master Trooper Phil Hensley, who's giving us some insight into what we have been seeing, and some insight, some direct insight of who Aaron Smith was, and something that we were just discussing. You knew, you helped to train him. You saw very early, before he even stepped foot into this job, what he was about and who he was and how he would approach this job. And we've certainly been hearing not only the stories of that throughout the course of the past couple of weeks. We're also heard the stories of that through the ceremonies today. We're seeing the impact of that through the public outreach that we've seen and the public response that we've seen throughout the course of the day and in the past few weeks here. As well.
And you've mentioned, I think, Nick, and maybe you did, that he actually he was involved in the saving of lives in his short 5-year career.
Just last year.
Just last year, and he's very humble about it, did not want to talk about it, but it is part of his career, something very notable and something heroic, and it shows how humble a man he was.
And then the leadership part, to not want to talk about it,
right.
to just get back to work.
Right.
That goes back to the leadership. That goes back to the service part we were talking about.
It shows what kind of character he truly has, in that he doesn't see it as a big deal because that's what he's supposed to do. In his mind, that what else was I supposed to do? And so he sees it as at a completely different level than what anyone looking from the outside in does. So he didn't see it as a big deal. Everybody else is like, hey, this is a great thing what you did. No, it's all right. It's all part of it.
Yeah. And if you are just joining us now, Nick mentioned that there's going to be a number of things happening probably fairly shortly here. Maybe, Phil, you can bring us up to speed about, people are just joining us now, coming home from work and seeing this on their TV. What are we seeing and what's about to happen?
To give you an idea, right now they're trying to make sure the formations of all of the officers are in place, and to add a little bit of light to a very grave day, it's like herding cats. When you have a group of police officers, they all want to stand around, they want to talk, because for us, it's we may not have seen a lot of the troopers statewide for a long time, so there's a lot of talking. We got to get them together. That's what the Honor Guard members are trying to do, trying to get these formations all set, because as Megan does come with Trooper Smith, we want to make sure that what she sees is completely pristine, on point, formed up to where it looks very, very formal.
And moments like these always bring up the feelings of why it's so important to have that brotherhood, those feelings, so when you see, you get together with people that, you may not have seen for a while, or that, you have served with, and under the cloud of what the day is, kind of really reinstills the importance of those relationships. So it naturally, you want to embrace that person, you want to talk to that person, you want to, keep those relationships going. And it just becomes, it's always a reminder of how precious life is, and how much you value the people who have your back and who stand there next to you.
As a generalization, police officers do not wear their feelings on their shoulders. They keep they keep their cards very close to the chest. Everybody there can relate to the exact same feelings. So this is also an opportunity to kind of talk to each other, get some of that emotion out a little bit, kind of just let that vent out just a little, to where we're not all standing there bearing the weight of the emotion of losing a friend, a colleague. It's something else. If when you were panning to to some of the formations, you saw a lot of spouses, a lot of children. I think it says a lot to what we try to do as a police family, in that those families are right there with their trooper, in support of what not only they have lost in shift partners, colleagues, but what the community's lost, and in turn what they've lost. A lot of those wives, a lot of those children, I'm sure knew Aaron. So to see that outpouring, not just of law enforcement, but of our family members, to bring them along because they want to come too. That says a lot.
And it looks like we're getting ready to see Trooper Smith be carried to the carriage that will ultimately take him to the Heroes of Public Safety section of Crown Hill Cemetery. And another point to what we were just talking about here, Phil, it also, when you're all surrounded together like this in this type of situation, it also reminds you of the fragility of life and of the danger that you guys face every day, because you're here honoring a brother, as we see his casket draped in the American flag being carried to the carriage. You're here honoring the life of a brother, but the harsh, and the sad truth is, at some point, you may be in a situation where that could be you, and you're sadly reminded of that in these types of scenarios.
I know personally, it's hit me for almost every funeral I've attended. At some point during the actual funeral, in the church or in the venue, you kind of space out and you zone out, and you go into your own mind thinking, what if that was my wife and my children sitting in the front row where Megan is at? Because that could happen at any given moment that I'm working. And that reality just kind of goes to compound the emotion that you're already experiencing from you're seeing the loss firsthand of these people that were directly touched and knew and had relationships with Aaron. And now when you try to apply that to yourself, it really does kind of hit home and kind of enhances the sadness of what that loss is, what that loss could mean for you and your family. And it's all around an extraordinarily emotional time, but it's at different levels for us. And I guarantee it, by myself just sitting there having those types of thoughts and emotions, there's about 1,000 other police officers in the same venue doing the exact same thing, thinking, what if that was me?
And then the next part of that, though, is, but then you still take a step forward to the next day and say, back to work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have to change our dress blouse back to the short sleeve uniform, and at 6 in the morning, it's 10:41 on duty. Let's go.
You're faced with your own mortality, but then you say, but there's a job to be done.
Right. We continue with the legacy that he leaves, but we still have to continue with our job of serving the public.
How important is it to see regular citizens line the streets and wave at troopers and the whole procession? Does that lift anybody's spirits, do you think, or is there What do you think most troopers might have a reaction to that?
Debbie, it pulls so many heartstrings when you're driving through and you see all of the outpouring of the community lined up. We're not just talking people who come outside during their lunch break, you know,
Right.
kids, older individuals, military veterans, you have people in wheelchairs. It doesn't matter. If they can get there, they come out. And seeing that, they don't have to. There's nothing that says they have to be out there to support, but they're lined up, and it's thick, and it truly does mean the world to us to see that kind of support.
We talked to Sergeant John Perrine earlier in the week about, you know, if people wanted to do something, what can they do? And he said something along those lines. He goes, you know, guys, listen to, you know, the acknowledgement, the hey, appreciate you, the handshakes, the thumbs up, the high fives, all those, however minuscule the gesture means something to those who are out there doing what they do.
People may not think it means much to come up to us, say we're having lunch in a restaurant, and say, hey, I just wanted to thank you for your service.
Yes.
That is one of the most humbling things we could get, because it's all we're left to do is say, thank you very much, we really appreciate that. And it just kind of gives you chills of thinking, you didn't have to come over here and say thank you. But a simple, easy gesture like that absolutely means the world. It truly does.
Well, we heard the governor speaking at the church service today, and he made some quotes that, of course, I think were probably repeated, but I heard them from him. And he said, we are forever grateful. His story will inspire others. You know, I hope that is absolutely true this day as we watch this ceremony. I hope that people are inspired, because, as you mentioned, we don't have enough police officers right now on the streets. It's true of IMPD and many police departments. I think it's true of the Indiana State Police. I hope that people are inspired by what they're finding out about this man, because he was truly an angel.
And that can include the most recent of cadets who are now training or now looking at, you know, entering into this field. They see this. They see what could be a possibility in their career, and then they still say, we're going to keep.
I'm going to move on.
I believe we're supposed to start our 84th recruit school on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So to transition from burying one of our own to beginning a new class, I'm sure a lot of those folks are, that's the human element, to look back and think, is this the right profession for me? But I would challenge them to take 10 seconds and actually just take a peek at the life that Aaron Smith led, leading up, you know, from going back to his high school days, lead all the way up to his time of death, and the service that he did and the actions he took. Tremendous example put forward for those recruits.
I was going to say, what would you say to those recruits that are saying, I think you just did it, but I mean, that's the kind of thing that you'd have to say, look, it's the big elephant in the room.
Yes.
We understand the feelings you're having, but look beyond that too.
Absolutely. And that was when I went through in 2004, that was one of the focus for us through our training, was remembering those who had just recently fallen. And that does bear a weight of thinking, that could be me, but what those individuals did in the service to their communities, to the state of Indiana, you're not going to get a better role model or an example of what to be going forward.
And going back to the conversation we had about this being a calling, you having to have that fire, for those members of that recruit class on Sunday, they're going to be faced with, okay, we know the danger of this job now. So you better be sure that this is what you want, and that this is something that you are committed to, and committed to this community despite the dangers, before we move forward, which is, you know, we talk about you're low on numbers, and while that is certainly important, also having the right people in those roles anyways is important. If you're going to, you can't just fill the ranks, you have to fill it with people like Aaron Smith.
I would rather be low on numbers than have people that don't have that flame inside of them. And an event like this 100% will test that flame. If that flame's still burning when you start day one, you're in good shape. I think you're going to be okay. Let's go.
You can say, hey, you see where this can end.
Yes, 100%.
Now let's get started.
Yes, and I think that's what we strive to do, is make sure that our troopers are exactly like that.
Well, it's about 4:15. We are looking at live pictures now at Crown Hill Cemetery. We're just now listening in, so Let's listen in and find out exactly what's going on right now.
Well, there you see Trooper Aaron Smith on the carriage there being taken to the Heroes of Public Safety area of Crown Hill Cemetery right now. That's also where we find our Michael Van Scoig, who's been covering this all day. Michael, what can you see from your vantage point, and what new have you learned?
Hey guys, right now we know Trooper Smith is making his way right now to the Heroes of Public Safety Memorial out here. Everyone gathering in formation, hundreds of officers with state police and then hundreds of officers from different agencies across the country out here. Of course, this is a very somber moment for a lot of people, but it's also truly beautiful to see just how many people are out here from all different parts of Indiana and the country to see how they're going to be paying their respects. Now, we know when Trooper Smith makes his way out here, there will be a prayer led by the chaplain here at the Heroes of Public Safety Memorial. After that, there may be a few other words given during this ceremony. Afterwards, then there will be a gun salute. That gun salute, of course, as we all know, is a very distinguished honor for somebody who dedicated their life to service. As we know, Trooper Smith wasn't just a trooper, he was also in the National Guard. And we spoke to several people in the last several days just telling us about how dedicated he was, how he really cared about everyone, saw them as humans, even when he was on the job. And now, again, to go back to the ceremony here, after that gun salute, we're going to hear taps, which every time you hear it, it's just one of those chilling moments. It's just a very beautiful but somber melody, paying respects to someone who's just served for years and years. And following that that melody, we're going to then have the American flag folded. That flag will then be given to Trooper Smith's wife. And now, guys, they'll be making their way over here very shortly. Of course, they are inside the gates right now. Just to give you some perspective about how many people are here, we had the chance to speak to law enforcement from as far as New Mexico and Utah, Arizona, all over the country. And these folks telling us that they come out here because the thin blue line is something that's so important to respect. It's a brotherhood that extends across boundaries. Now, right now, I will tell you, we can hear off in the distance the bagpipes. That's how close they're getting. They'll be here very shortly. It's very, very somber and emotional to hear this sound as they begin to make their way here, his family on their way as well. And just, again, hundreds of people out here.
Michael Van Scoig.
Guys, I don't know if you can quite...
Yeah, we can hear it, Michael, in the background.
We can certainly hear it, and you know, last time you were with us, Michael, you even mentioned that the taps will be played at a certain moment. Those sounds that we hear of the pipes and drums and taps, it is beautiful and moving music, and in the moment when you're there experiencing it, it really weighs on you heavily.
There is symbolism throughout this. We've talked a little bit about this, but I think it's great to review because you can learn so much. And understand so much of what's going on. So this is it's kind of a basic question, but why did the state police put the American flag over the casket?
That it goes back centuries as a military rite, and you'll notice the orientation of the way the stars are placed on the casket that goes over the left shoulder. That always, so we know where the head of the casket is, and that will be taken off and then folded. The actual folding of that is 13 steps. There are 13 steps within the flag fold, and by design, each individual step has almost more of a religious symbolism and meaning. So there's a meaning behind each
Every
fold.
step in the fold.
Each fold has a meaning behind it.
Wow.
Once it's finished, the triangle was it was meant to look like George Washington's hat. So the flagfold goes back that far.
Okay.
With the stars meant to be the final completion of the fold as a reflection to God in the heavens. So there's very much each step very rooted, very deep thinking.
And you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the riderless horse, that you said that original one dates back to Alexander Hamilton. So a lot of the foundations of this country, some of the traditions that we are seeing here today go back to the foundations of this country.
Some of the things that they did and may have taken for granted in the late, the beginning of this nation, to carry forward this far and still use and deem very important, I think that says a lot for the deep, rich history of our country.
And there are also other elements that we tend to see during these ceremonies. What are some other things, if people are watching here at home, what will they be seeing? Maybe little things they may see that wonder, I wonder what that is that mean.
There's a few. You mentioned right there the bagpipers.
Yeah.
This actually goes back to as Scottish and Irish immigrants came to the United States. They mainly came towards the eastern seaboard and were moving into areas, New York, Boston. Those guys that were immigrants were looking for work, taking jobs that nobody else wanted, more than the dirty, dangerous jobs, and a lot of them became police officers. So the origins of law enforcement stemming from Scottish and Irish immigrants, they brought with them the traditions of the bagpipes. So those were used a lot with fire departments and police departments. It's been said that it takes playing of the bagpipes to make a Scottish man cry. The bagpipes sound so sorrowful and so sad when you hear it played. That's why they continue to use it as a symbolism of a rite of, this is a very sad moment. This is very sad. So that tradition of basically the origins of policing in
goes back
the United
hundreds
States.
of years. Wow.
Right. You look at taps. We'll play taps after the firing of the 3-volley salute. Taps goes back to Civil War days. It was actually changed during the Civil War. Initially, it had another meaning. It's a 24-note playing. Of course, it's one of those where you hear the first 3 notes, you instantly know somebody's playing taps.
Exactly.
So that carries forward from Civil War age all the way forward as well. And that along with the 3-volley, when we have our firing party, which I'm a member of, the commander, the honor guard commander will say, firing party, fire 3 volleys. It's 3 volleys of 7 rounds, and a lot of people get that confused with a 21-gun salute.
I will tell you, I'm confused by that.
Okay.
Because I assume that is the 21-gun
The
salute.
21-gun salute is a military rite only, and 21 guns is only used for head of state, for the president.
Okay.
So say we have a presidential funeral, 21 cannon fire will be discharged. With this, it's called a 3-volley salute. And what it originated from was European war days. They would fire 3 volleys for a break in the war action so they could remove their fallen from the battlefield.
Oh.
We've carried that forward to where we use that now, not only in military funerals, but police and public service funerals as well.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, something I didn't
Certainly
know.
a difference. Yeah, everybody thinks, oh, it's the 21-gun salute, but it's not. Depending on how you rank militarily or as head of state, 21-gun salute is only for the president.
Only really for the
and
president.
it drops from there.
Okay.
Okay, something interesting. We also know we'll see what we're seeing right now on your uniform here, Master Trooper, the red rope that is on your uniform.
Yes, my red braid normally and this is indicative of a member of Honor Guard. We have blue and red. Blue we would wear for public events, parades, those type of things, where just an Honor Guard presence. Anytime we switch to the red, it signifies a line of duty death. Or we'll wear these with our memorial service where we honor those that have fallen. But we wear red to identify the fact that someone lost their life.
Does that continue for a month or a week or just a day? Or
just for
the
period of the funeral. So from the time he lost his life to close end of the day today.
And then right next to that we see the black band over your badge.
Right. This is more of a public symbol to show the public that we as a law enforcement agency are in mourning. It's a mourning band to show that kind of twofold. One, we've lost a member of law enforcement, we've lost a member of our policing family, but two, by still being here for you to see this badge and see this band, we're still here to serve you. So we're not stopping our service because we lost someone. It's just a public recognition that, yes, in fact, we have lost a police officer.
They even talk about handshakes and hand salutes and that sort of thing in the middle of this kind of a funeral. Is there some significance to that sort of thing?
That kind of comes down to military protocol, which we carry forward. Anytime the casket is moving, anytime the flags, the colors are moving, it's called present arms, where we salute, or a rifle team will present their rifles, manipulate the guns in a certain way. That's a symbol of respect, and the origins of a salute go back centuries to showing respect for other military members or dignitaries. But anytime you see the casket moving, anytime that the flags are moving, we present arms to show the respect for the flags.
Yeah. And as we're watching the procession move through here towards the Heroes of Public Safety section of Crown Hill Cemetery, there you see the carriage that is carrying Trooper Smith, his casket draped in the American flag there, and we were just hearing the explanation of why they do that and the placement of the flag within that.
And I've noticed, Nick, as you'd mentioned, Aaron Smith was a member of the National Guard. Those do look to be his escort with the casket. Mostly looks to be made up of military personnel in their dress blues.
And that also goes to then the putting together something like this when you have not only state police but the National Guard taking part as well. The coordination that takes is probably immense.
Because to each individual group, the National Guard, us, that's our guy, and the National Guard saying, well, that's our staff sergeant. Everybody wants to have a part and a role and be big in that as well. So it kind of goes to, we have to work to make sure we get everybody worked in when we plan this, so everybody has a very good prominent role.
I know there'll be a prayer said here probably very soon, but will there be any kind of a final eulogy or final words or anything like that? Do you know that?
Typically the way we structure this, there will be some comments either from the pastor or our chaplain, Daniel Coffey. But there'll be a prayer. Most of the talking and eulogizing of Aaron Smith will be done at the church. We want to try to keep that more minimized while we're at the graveside. But there will be opportunity for prayer said, and then we'll go through with more of the formal military rites.
And we talked about decompressing after this. This is an emotional event for people who are coming from all over the country. After this is finished, after the funeral is finished, will there be time for officers to get together? Is there something planned? I mean, just to be able to have some fraternity,
In some states I've gone to, they'll organize and have large gatherings, dinners, things like that. We typically don't. Because we need to get back to work.
I was about to say that.
We've got to get back to our districts, got to get back home. So for me, the way I view it, I'll pack my stuff up, my Honor Guard things, head home, and I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm looking forward to hugging my wife and kids.
Yeah.
You bet.
That's
As you should.
decompression.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's the way it is for most of us.
Okay.
Is just kind of going home and taking a moment to be with family to
Yeah.
to focus on the ones that mean the most to us.
Yeah, because the weight of these occasions, you can certainly feel, and if you're ever at the cemetery, as you and I have been during some of these, you can see that weight on the faces of not only the officers who are there, but the family members, as we mentioned, Phil, who are going to be there, and it all takes a toll. So you're watching hundreds of people.
Right.
I've done a lot of different tasks and a lot of different jobs within this department over the last 2 decades. This has to be one of the most exhausting things to do. And our role with, for example, being part of the firing party, it lasts 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But you come away feeling so exhausted because you're part of something so much greater than yourself.
Right.
You know, the entire day transcends however you feel. It's how a community feels. It's how a state feels. It's how Megan Smith feels.
Right.
So
exactly.
it's very deep
Yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah. So what are we looking at right now? What can you tell us might be happening behind the scenes, or as all these troopers are gathered around, even guardsmen as well, it looks like?
They look to be positioned in front of all of the officers, so they'll be preparing to take his casket from the carriage and move it to the gravesite with the family.
Okay.
But as we've said before, there's so many moving pieces, and it's so fluid and dynamic that we've got to make sure once one piece gets in place, now we've got to structure and move people around to get the next piece in place.
Yeah.
We like to think that it's going to flow very quickly, and it doesn't, in fact.
Very methodical.
Yeah,
Yes.
but this also goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. There are moments of silence, and there are pauses throughout the courses of these ceremonies, and I usually find that it's within those pauses that the weight of what you're witnessing usually hits harder.
It does, and those pauses, while we may not necessarily for transition purposes want them to exist, they're such a blessing. They're such a good thing for right now, just seeing Trooper Smith with that flag draped over his casket on that carriage. That image alone bears so much emotion, and to so many that are there, to so many that are viewing here with us, you would hate to rush through that. So those pauses, it does sink in that, there's a finality to this.
Yeah. And as we got closer there, you can see that on the faces of the people who are in attendance there.
Let's talk about the trooper. Let's review, because people are coming home from work. They're tuning in right now. They're realizing this funeral is going on. So let's just kind of review quickly if we can, because I think things are going to happen as we watch here, about who this man was.
Trooper Aaron Smith was 33 years old. He was a 5-year member of our department. He joined in 2018, was assigned to the Indianapolis post, where he was on road patrol, and has been a faithful servant not only to the state of Indiana, but had served in the National Guard since 2011. He was local to the area. He was originally from Central Indiana, so he's part of Indiana. He's part of the community.
Oh yeah, I think he's from Franklin originally.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the moment you were just discussing a few moments ago, presenting arms of what we're seeing right now, as they were moving Trooper Smith off the carriage, you saw the salutes go up by everyone who was standing there, and the precision of which everybody is moving in right now is another one of those moving parts of this type of ceremony too.
Yes, and they will hold that salute until he's placed in his final position, and then they would be told to order arms, which means they'll bring their hands back down to their side. But I believe right now the military personnel, the Army, had removed Trooper Smith from the carriage, and now you'll have pallbearers to step up and move him over to the graveside.
Okay, so these are the pallbearers.
Yeah.
Could be family members or whomever.
Family and friends.
Family
correct.
and friends.
And to see their faces and to see their body language, the weight that's on their shoulders in this moment. You can see just how much that's affecting them. Of the backdrop of the officers holding the salute as he crosses up.
Because every single individual there would rather be somewhere else. Yeah. This is not a place you want to be. Yeah. Just tremendously unfortunate.
And hearing those pipes in the background again, it emits such an emotion from, because the pipes themselves sound like they're crying in a way.
They do.
They emit such an emotion to you that we're going to take a listen in now as the ceremony continues.
Officers! On guard! Order! Officers! On guard! Perfect!
Thank you so much for joining us today as we lay to rest Aaron Smith. Before we begin, I wanted to say to the National Guard, the Indiana State Troopers, any law enforcement that has supported this family, on behalf of our church, truly thank you for all of the support that you have lent to Megan and the rest of her family. Watching the level of love and care over the course of the past week has been nothing short of inspiring. The work that you do is profound, it is meaningful, and just watching it and watching the way that you love and care is truly a humbling thing to witness. So thank you for all that you have done. To the Smith family, what I would say today is, I know that it has been incredibly emotional. I know it's been taxing, I know it has been draining. But what I want you to know is that in the coming days and the coming weeks, the grief will hit you in different ways. But what I want you to know is that you are never alone. And I hope that what the past 2 days have shown you is that not only is God by your side every moment of every day, but this community, this state, your family, this church, whatever we can do to love and support, we will do. I will not re-preach any message that has been delivered today. The words that have already been shared have been beautiful and they have been meaningful and heartfelt. I think those stand on their own. What I would love to do in the next few moments are 3 things. The first is I would like for all of us to have a moment of silence together where we can honor the beautiful life of Trooper Aaron Smith. And then following that moment of silence, I would love to share a passage from Scripture. I would love to read Psalm 23, which I think offers us hope. I think it offers us encouragement, what we desperately need today. And then I would love for all of us, each and every single one of you that would like to join us, I would love to conclude in prayer today. So to begin, let us all engage and share in a moment of silence for Trooper Aaron Smith. Psalm 23, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." Aaron Smith truly is living in the house of the Lord forever. And on a day like today, where it is difficult emotionally, you can take solace in that. Will you join me in prayer? God, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and be still and silent in your presence. We thank you for the opportunity to clear any distractions from our minds so that we may focus on you and giving you glory and honor to your name. Father, you have blessed us with an incredible life. You have blessed us with Aaron Smith. You have blessed us with his service, with his love, with his sacrifice, with the steadfast care that he has shown not only to his family, but to this community, this state, and this country. His life surely was a blessing. You have given us an example to follow. The way that he lived, the way that he honored you, the way that he honored his community has inspired us all, and help us to take the lessons from his life and help us to live them out each and every single day on our respective journeys towards you. God, even on days when it's hard, even on days when we do not understand, we still choose to place our faith and our hope and our trust in you. God, you are good. We acknowledge your goodness each and every single day. And I pray that you will comfort Megan and the rest of the Smith family. I pray that you encourage these men and women in law enforcement and the military that are joining us today to let them know that they are loved and that they are valued and they are appreciated. God, we give you all the thanks and we give you all the glory. And we thank you for this incredible life that we lay to rest today. God, we love Aaron and we love you so much. It's in your name that we humbly pray, and we all said, Amen. Thank you.
Officers! Out of guard! Attention! Freeze it! Oh! Fire party! Hand fire! 3 volleys! Officers! Out of guard! Out here! Oh!
And we're watching now as people are placing flowers there on top of Trooper Smith, and I believe those are the white carnations. Are those not, Master Trooper Ensign?
Yes, those are the white carnations. We hand those out before the funeral service in the morning, so they have them with them throughout the day.
And they're not all white carnations. There's a red dot on them.
What happens is the white carnation represents the purity and innocence, but those carnations have a red dot, a little bit of red in them. And when we wear those carnations, we tuck those into our nameplate, but we have them upside down. So with that red, it indicates and shows that blood was spilled, life was lost.
And we also watched as they removed the flag and folded it and then handed it over to Trooper Smith's family.
Right. The flag fold, 6 members folded the flag, 3 Indiana State Honor Guard members, State Police Honor Guard members, and 3 Army soldiers folded the flag. When they made their hand salutes, anytime we move that flag, we salute the flag, and then member of the ISP presented that to Superintendent Doug Carter, who in turn presented that to Megan Smith.
And you yourself are a member of the Honor Guard, correct?
I am,
and,
yes.
And so watching this ceremony, what do you go through as you watch this?
As I'm watching it and taking a moment to step back and watch the ceremony in whole is somewhat of a unique position, because we as Honor Guard members have dedicated roles. Mm-hmm. So we don't have an opportunity to actually step back and see this as it happens. But it does pull a lot of heartstrings, thinking about playing Amazing Grace on those bagpipes during the flag fold. It's hard to sit here and watch this and not have chills. It really does start pulling at me a little bit. Watching Superintendent Carter hand that flag to Megan Smith, though, I've presented flags, I've presented items to widows, and I can tell you with certainty there's nothing more sad in an entire funeral detail than looking into that widow's eyes at that moment.
And every time I watch these, you're in, because everything is so measured. The steps are measured to her, the folding of the flag, everything is done in such a measured way. You can feel those moments as he's getting ready to hand her that flag, and oftentimes you see when the flag is handed, it being such a devastating and impactful moment for the person that flag is being handed to. And at that moment, it washes over them as well, and it is something that does really kind of just take you aback.
You can step back all the way to when Honor Guard Assistant Commander Master Trooper Chris McCauley had announced the commands for the firing party to fire 3 volleys. It's so choreographed that you know each step, you know exactly what measure is coming. The firing party, the taps, Amazing Grace during the flag fold, you know how many steps in that flag fold. To sit here and watch the mechanics, you know exactly how that's going to go. So you know at some point through that process, Superintendent Carter is going to have to take that flag, have to make his way over, and it's kind of watching this, it's like, all right, at this point I'm expecting him to kneel down. He knelt down, and then he reached over after he said his words to Megan, gave her a hug. You can almost feel that energy just being transferred just by watching it. Yeah. You know exactly how that feels and what's going on there.
And you know the mechanics of everything that's happening here almost more than anyone. I mean, just as much as anybody was of what's going to be coming next, what we're seeing. But I noticed while watching the ceremony, even though you know these mechanics so well, it does not negate the emotion that comes with them as you're experiencing them, as you're watching.
No, every time there is no, you can't say, well, I've been to a police funeral, so I know what 2 years later feels like. Yeah. Every single one gets you. Every single one feels different, because every single one has a different amount of energy to it. Yeah. There's a different level of emotion, and it's not to say that it's more or less, it's different. Yeah. But it is so heavy. I mean, that whole area right now is filled with so just emotional energy. It's very hard to describe how people truly are feeling as they stand out there today.
Yeah, heavy is a good word to describe what we've been witnessing here all day today, not only from the funeral services, but from the ceremony here at Crown Hill. I want to give you a thanks here to Master Trooper Phil Hensley, who's been joining us through this coverage to provide us some insight to what we have been seeing as we celebrate the life of Trooper Aaron Smith. We're going to take a break here and wrap up our coverage of Trooper Aaron Smith's funeral and burial services. We're going to return with our regular news programming on both Fox 59 and CBS 4 after this break, but that will also include stories and tributes in those news hours of what we have been witnessing here today. We're going to take a quick break.